At Thanksgiving, my mother was crying in the foyer, my father looked like he had seen a ghost, and my sister Elise would not stop asking, "How did you pull this off?" They looked around at the cathedral high ceilings, the chef preparing hors d'oeuvres, the custom woodwork, and the ranch that rolled for miles under snow-dusted mountains. 48 guests were laughing around the fire pit. Friends, family, distant cousins, all the people they had shut out for years. And now every one of them was seated at my table. I built it with money they never believed I would earn, from a company they said I should give up on. They were standing in a house they were never meant to see. That was the moment everything cracked. But the story started long before anyone arrived. My name is Ava. I am 35, a tech founder who splits time between Austin, Texas and the Montana wilderness, where the mountains stretch wide enough to hold my secrets. Early November, my phone buzzed with a text from my father, Thomas. "We are doing a small Thanksgiving this year. Just your sister Elise, Michael and their kids. Hope you understand, Dad." I stared at the words, my chest tightening, the air in my lungs turning to cement. I typed back, "Enjoy yourselves." But inside I was unraveling. My whole life I had been chasing Elise's shadow. My older sister, the star my parents orbited around. When I was 14, I won a national app development contest. My fingers were still cramped from coding for 72 hours straight. I burst into the living room holding the certificate, my heart hammering. Dad glanced up from his laptop. "That is nice, Ava." Then he turned to Mom. "Elise just got accepted to that summer debate intensive at Georgetown. They are only taking 20 students nationwide." Mom clasped her hands together. "We need to book flights immediately. This could be her ticket to Yale Law." My certificate ended up buried under grocery receipts on the kitchen counter. Nobody mentioned it again. That was my childhood. Always one step behind Elise. At 17, I built an AI-powered task bot that could manage calendars, predict scheduling conflicts, even order groceries based on past patterns. I showed Mom, thinking she would finally see what I could do. She watched the demo for maybe 15 seconds. "Interesting, Ava. Oh, Elise just landed the lead in the school play. We need to get her costume fitted." When I got into MIT for computer science, Dad said, "That is expensive and far from home." Mom added, "If you are certain about all this tech stuff." Elise texted, "Congrats, sis," then went silent for 3 months. No celebration, no proud parent posts. Just a shrug and a question mark. MIT was isolating. I would call home, but Dad was always at Elise's mock trial competitions, or helping her network with his lawyer friends. When Elise graduated from law school, they threw a party that cost more than my entire year's tuition. 200 guests, a jazz quartet, champagne fountains. When Elise married Michael, her law school boyfriend, it was a production, crystal chandeliers, an orchid wall, 350 guests. I was not in the wedding party. Elise picked her sorority sisters, her study group friends, even her yoga instructor. I ended up managing the gift table while wearing a dress Mom picked because it would not clash with the color scheme. If you have ever felt like the invisible one at your family table, tell me where you are watching from. Drop your city below. I read every story. Holidays became a ritual of erasure. I would show up for Christmas only to troubleshoot the smart TV, while Elise and Michael sprawled on Italian leather couches, their kids tearing through mountains of presents. My parents would be on the Persian rug, playing with my nieces, their laughter a symphony I could never join. They never visited me at MIT. Not once, but they took a Mediterranean cruise with Elise and Michael. I saw the photos on Instagram. Azure waters, everyone toasting with Prosecco. I graduated summa cum laude. They came to the ceremony but left during the reception for my niece's kindergarten graduation. After college, I clawed my way through tech jobs in Austin. I was good, really good, but it was not enough. At 28, I launched my first startup, DataShield, a social media privacy tool. I poured everything into it. 80-hour weeks, living on protein bars and black coffee. Then disaster struck. A coding error exposed data from 20,000 users. The internet turned on me overnight. Death threats, doxing, my address posted on forums. Journalists called me incompetent. Investors pulled out. I was drowning in debt and public humiliation. I called Elise desperate. She was a lawyer. She could help. "Ava, I cannot get involved." Conflict of interest. "I can recommend someone affordable though." Conflict of interest. I was her sister, not a client. But she had already hung up. "Here is something I never told anyone. During that nightmare, I discovered why my biggest investor had pulled out at the last minute, months before the data breach. He let slip during a final phone call that someone close to me had warned him I was unstable, prone to taking dangerous risks. It was Elise. She had called him behind my back, thinking she was protecting me from myself. She cost me everything before I even had a chance to fail on my own. I also found out something else that year. When I tried to rent a small office space near my parents' neighborhood, just to feel closer to something familiar, the landlord rejected my application. 6 months later, his assistant told me why. Your father called, said you would not last 3 months and to save myself the trouble. My own father sabotaged me behind my back while smiling to my face. I moved into a studio apartment with water damage and no heating. I was 30 years old, broke, humiliated and completely alone. I called Mom one night, sobbing. Maybe this is a sign, Ava. Not everyone is meant to be an entrepreneur. Elise just made partner at her firm. Such stability. Maybe she could get you a paralegal position. I hung up, sat in that freezing apartment, wrapped in a sleeping bag, and stared at the moldy ceiling. I did not cry anymore. I just felt hollow. But I did not stop. I landed a job at a tech firm, climbed from developer to director in 3 years. The money was decent, but I was starving for more. At 31 I quit, emptied my 401k, sold everything I owned, and launched FortiWall, a data encryption platform. The first year was hell. I lived on ramen, slept 3 hours a night, woke up with keyboard imprints on my face. 6 months in I was hemorrhaging money. I had one last shot at a major contract with a healthcare consortium. I called Dad, voice shaking, asking for a $10,000 loan to keep FortiWall alive long enough to close the deal. He sighed. Ava, we have been through this. You are not built for this world. Stick to something stable. Elise just won a case that made national news. That is the kind of success that lasts. I hung up. That was the last time I asked them for anything. Then lightning struck. The healthcare consortium signed. Then a major retailer. Then 3 government agencies. FortiWall exploded, securing billions of transactions globally. But I kept it quiet. At family dinners I let them think I was still struggling. How is your little tech project? Dad would ask, already turning to watch Elise's kids. It is fine, I would say. Elise would pat my arm condescendingly. Keep grinding, Ava. Not everyone hits the jackpot. I would nod and change the subject. If this hits close to home, hit like so I know I am not alone in this. Some of us build our lives from the cracks, others leave us in. Last year, at 34, Oracle offered to buy FortiWall for $500 million. I sat in a conference room on the 40th floor, signing papers while my hands trembled. When it was done, I went home, collapsed on my couch, and laughed until my ribs ached. Then I sobbed for an hour straight. I bought a penthouse in Austin, floor-to-ceiling windows, a rooftop pool, the skyline glittering like scattered diamonds. Then I found a ranch in Montana, 2,000 acres of raw beauty, $15 million. I wrote the check without blinking. I hired architects, designers, a property manager named Sarah. By October it was perfect. Hand-hewn log beams, stone fireplaces you could stand in, windows that turned the mountains into living art. I walked through those empty rooms picturing my family there, their jaws dropping, finally seeing me. Then Dad's text arrived. Just Elise's family for Thanksgiving. I stood on my deck, the wind carrying the scent of pine and snow, and something inside me snapped. Not with anger, with clarity. I was done auditioning for their approval. I started making calls. Uncle Dean, Aunt May, cousins I had not seen in years, college friends from MIT, early FortiWall employees who had believed in me when nobody else would. Every single person told me the same thing. My parents had canceled on them too, claiming they wanted an intimate Thanksgiving to impress Michael's blue blood family from Connecticut. Aunt May did not hold back. They think we are not sophisticated enough for Michael's parents. It is embarrassing. I believed her. I invited them all to Montana, 48 people. I arranged private jets, luxury SUVs, booked a nearby lodge for overflow guests. I hired a James Beard-nominated chef named Antoine who had cooked for presidents. I hand-selected gifts for everyone. A first-edition Hemingway for Uncle Dean. A vintage camera for my cousin Emma who was studying photography. This had to be perfect. 2 days before Thanksgiving, Elise called. Hey Ava, what are your Thanksgiving plans? Her tone was casual, like she had not just erased me from existence. I am covered, I said, my voice sharp as winter ice. With who? She pressed suspicious now. Family, I said, the kind that actually shows up. I hung up. My pulse was racing. This was really happening. Thanksgiving morning I woke at 5, checking every detail. Antoine's kitchen smelled of rosemary and brown butter. The photographer Marcus arrived to document everything. Uncle Dean and Aunt May pulled up first, stepping out of the car with their mouths hanging open. Ava, this is all yours. Dean's voice cracked. Every acre, I said, hugging him tight. By noon the ranch was electric with life. Cousins hiking the trails, kids building snowmen, my MIT friends debating quantum computing by the 12-foot fireplace. At 3 we gathered in the great room, tables groaned under Antoine's feast. Herb-crusted turkey, truffle mac and cheese, bourbon pecan pie, cranberry tarts that looked like jewelry. I raised my glass. My voice thick with emotion. Thank you for being here. This place, this moment, is for the people who see me, who always have. Aunt May stood, tears streaming, to Ava who built a kingdom and opened its gates to those who matter. Glasses rang like bells. Then I heard tires on gravel. A car door slammed. I looked out the window. A cab was pulling away but it stopped. Reversed. The door opened again. Michael stepped out. Elise's husband, holding 2 pies, looking sheepish. I walked outside, confused. Michael, what are you doing here? He shifted his weight. I told Elise I had a work emergency. I had to see this for myself. She said you built something big. She undersold it. We sat by the outdoor fire pit hours later, the party continuing inside. He was quiet for a long moment. You know, sometimes I think you were the one carrying all the weight all along. Not Elise. She got everything handed to her. You had to fight for every inch. I stared at the flames, not trusting myself to speak. She knows she failed you, he continued. She just does not know how to admit it. That night, Instagram exploded. Epic Thanksgiving at Ava's Montana ranch. Photos of the mountains, the feast, everyone laughing, the northern lights appearing like a sign from the universe. My phone buzzed nonstop. A text from Elise. What the hell is that place? You are rich? Mom and Dad are freaking out. I showed it to my grandpa Silas, who had surprised everyone by driving 16 hours from Oklahoma. He chuckled, his weathered face crinkling. Good. Let them stew in it. That night, surrounded by chosen family, the fire crackling, snow falling soft as whispers, I felt complete. The next morning my phone rang. Dad? I answered, ready. Ava, what is this? Pictures of you in some mansion with Grandpa Silas. His voice was sharp, accusatory. He was done with your games, I said calmly, so I invited him, along with everyone else you canceled on to kiss up to Michael's parents. Silence. Then Mom's voice faint and shocked. How did you afford all that? I exhaled slowly. I sold 40 Wall for $500 million. A choking sound. Then Dad, stammering. 500 what? Mom's voice shook. Why did you not tell us? I tried, I said, my voice steady as granite. Last Easter, I mentioned the acquisition. You were playing with Elise's kids. You waved me off. Dad's voice turned hard. You did this to humiliate us. Dragging everyone to Montana, making us look bad. No, I said. I did it to spend Thanksgiving with people who give a damn. You cut out 48 people to impress Michael's family. I gave them a home for the holiday. Then a surprise. Elise's voice panicked and small. Ava, our Thanksgiving looked pathetic compared to yours. Everyone is posting about it. Michael's parents saw everything. They think we are frauds now. Not my problem, I said. Grandpa Silas gestured for the phone. I put it on speaker. You ignored Ava for 35 years, he growled. Put Elise on a pedestal, and left Ava in the dirt. She built this with her own blood and sweat while you were busy polishing Elise's trophies. You should be proud. Instead you are jealous. Mom whispered. We are not jealous. But it sounded hollow as a dead tree. We will talk soon, Dad said, and hung up. The weekend flew by. Snowball fights, late-night poker, stories under the vast Montana sky. Grandpa Silas stayed a week. We explored the state dive bars, hidden trails, the kind of freedom I had forgotten existed. At the airport he gripped my shoulder. Make them earn your forgiveness, Ava. You are worth that fight. 3 days later, something unexpected. A Forbes article dropped. From data breach to data millions, how Ava Morrison built and sold 40 Wall. It went viral. My parents' friends, their church, their country club, everyone saw it. They were publicly exposed as the parents who never mentioned their daughter's empire. Mom called, crying. We did not know. We did not understand. You never tried to understand, I said. And hung up. Then Elise texted. A long message I read 3 times. I have always been jealous of you. You took risks. You fell hard and got back up harder. I just followed the script Mom and Dad wrote for me. I did call that investor. I thought I was protecting you. I see now I was protecting myself from being overshadowed. I sabotaged you because I was terrified you would eclipse me. I am sorry. I am so deeply sorry. I stared at those words, torn between forgiveness and 35 years of scars. Subscribe for more stories of rising when nobody is clapping. Sometimes the applause has to come from within. The Ava who built an empire was not ready to let go. Not yet. This Thanksgiving was not about spite. It was about claiming my place, building a table for the people who show up. If you have ever felt unseen in your own family, if you fought to prove your worth, drop your story in the comments. How did you rise? Hit like if this hit home and subscribe for more stories about breaking through and building something unstoppable. I am Ava, and this is the empire I forged. Not just with money but with every scar I carry.